But first, on this Veterans Day coming just after the elections, it's worth remembering those who served in the military have helped preserve our freedoms, including the right to vote.
Tonight, we meet a man who did just that 78 years ago in the heat of the Second World War, fighting the enemy at an age when a lot of young Americans were still in high school. 207's Don Kerrigan has his story.
For Howard Cederlund, the bell in the garage rings up memories of his time at war.
All hands, man your battle stations.
Howard was just 17 when he quit high school and joined the Navy. It was 1944.
77 years ago, 78 years ago.
Yeah.
Long time.
It is. I'm kind of old.
That time is still engraved in his mind. When a teenager had to grow up fast, Howard says he and others wanted to get into the fight.
It just seemed like everybody was going in the service and get all of these stories coming back about all the heroism that went on and how we were trying to save the country, and I was no different.
And yet, I mean, everybody knew that it was potentially deadly situations.
Oh yeah. I don't think I expected to get back. I don't think so. I don't think any of us did.
After just 4 weeks of basic training, Howard was sent to the USS Menard in Oregon, an attack ship that carried soldiers to invasion beaches. He quickly became a gunner.
The guns are manned all the time, 24 hours a day, no matter where you were, except in that typhoon.
With a crew of more than 500 and 1,500 soldiers and Marines, they headed across the Pacific to the Battle of Okinawa. 17
when I left, and I was 17 when we got to the Battle of Okinawa. And on April 1st, we invaded Okinawa. On March 30th, I turned 18.
Howard still vividly recalls those brutal days as the ships of the invasion fleet were repeatedly assailed by Japanese kamikaze planes.
On the 6th of April, 310 kamikazes came at us with 300 fighter escorts in a 4-hour period. And one of them had our name on it, for sure.
And 78 years have not dulled that memory.
He came over the island of Okinawa and coming right at us, but the hospital ship Comfort was between us and the island. And first I thought he was going to hit the Comfort, but then it became pretty apparent that he was heading for us. And he came and he went maybe 10 feet over my head. I often sit and look at the corner of the wall and say, that's how close I came to getting hit. And maybe 10 feet over my head, and he splashed into the water off our port bow. And, but I was lucky. I picked shrapnel all out of my pants and shoes, and we had all kinds of people that got wounded in that thing.
The terrible fight for Okinawa lasted almost 3 months, but the Menard left after a few weeks to get ready for the dreaded invasion of Japan. But it didn't happen. The 2 atomic bombs were dropped instead.
What goes through your minds?
Joy. Because the war is going to end.
The whole story is here in a notebook Howard carefully constructed over the years, including the part about his ship sailing into Nagasaki about a month after the bomb was dropped. He says the city was devastated.
A couple of churches or a couple of concrete things were still standing, but other than that, the thing was wiped out. There was nothing there. Wow. For about a mile, I would guess, or more.
And no one, Howard says, warned the sailors about possible radiation. Later in life, Howard would have cancer and says many of his shipmates did as well.
Whether that was from smoking or whether it was from the atomic bomb, we don't know, but a great many of them had trouble with their thyroids.
But he says life on board got better after that. The Menard began taking troops to Japan and others home to America. Howard and his harmonica were their band. They all came home and started their lives again. The war was over, and they had survived.
Did you feel older than guys who had not gone over?
Yeah, I absolutely. I was a man. I went to Commerce High to see about going back and finishing my education, and I went in there and saw all these young kids, and you know, they just seemed crazy. They seemed so young. And I said, I can't do that.
Howard says he worked hard over the years and that life has generally been good to him. But even now, at age 95, the war hasn't completely left. And he described an argument some years ago with a man who wanted the U.S. to send soldiers somewhere else to fight.
Boy, I got up out of the chair. I said, "You go." I said, "If you go, enough sending these young kids off to do this, you know." And I really got upset over that because it's so easy to send the kids over there because you don't have to go.
Hard lessons learned a lifetime ago by a sailor who still remembers.
The Maine Historical Society says nearly 80,000 Mainers served in World War II. More than 2,000 of them died.
On Veterans Day and Memorial Day, I always think of when I started as a reporter, and we used to cover the parades on those 2 days, and we used to see a lot of World War I veterans, and I'd interview the World War I veterans, who are, of course, all long gone, and now we're down to such a small number of World War II veterans, and it's remarkable to see a gentleman like that who is so vigorous and still has such vivid memories of his time in that war.
That's exactly what I was thinking. 95 years old, and he's still that sharp. Thank you for your service, and thank you for playing your harmonica too. That was a real treat.